Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Craig Ziegler. I'm a senior tester over on the Windows Driver Kit.
And I'm Janet Schneider. I'm a senior developer for the Windows Driver Kit. And
Sure.
welcome to Inside Windows 8 Driver Developer Workflow.
Chalk Talks are a little bit more informal than your regular sessions. And it seemed we had a lot of questions from some earlier sessions. So we have a small demo planned if we wanted where we can show how we've improved the Windows Driver developer experience from the Windows 7 Driver Kit, for example, with the command line environment that Janet's ready to show.
Yeah.
And I can show you the changes that we did with the Windows 8 one, and we can actually go through that workflow. But how many of you have attended some of the earlier sessions today in which we've shown off the integration with the Windows Driver Kit? How many couldn't get into earlier sessions because they were overflown? Okay, so it would probably be, I'm guessing you would like it if we at least started with some sort of demo then? We can go from there and then we can take questions or something like that? Okay, then we'll do that then.
Okay.
And hopefully Daron shows up eventually too, so he can answer some questions with us. So we'll go with that. So, go ahead.
So I am going to pretend that I'm a brand new driver developer, and I just downloaded the Windows 7 kit, and I want to get started, and I want to play around with the KMDF driver. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because I know the answers to all the questions people run into, but I'm just going to show you all the manual steps you'd have to go through to get there. So first of all, when you install the Windows 7 driver kit, you get the command prompt, and then I want to play with the driver. What do I do? Well, I happen to know that if I do a directory, I can see, oh, there's a source directory. So I can find my way through here, and then I say, okay, I just want to play with something. What should I pick? All right, I'll pick general, because I know the answer to this question already. I've heard Toaster is a suite of samples that showcases everything you can do with drivers, so I'll start there. Okay, so I know I want to play with KMDF because I've heard great things about it. What kind of KMDF driver? Well, let's just go for a simple function driver. And oh, there's different kinds there too. I think I'll go with simple. So I found my driver, and here it is. And I can look at it in Notepad.
Okay, so you're at one spot, but I'm going to try to do it in the new Windows 8 driver kit. And as you can see, we've got complete Visual Studio integration here from end to end. So I'm just going to go to New Project, and I'd like to make a kernel mode driver framework driver, KMDF driver, and I'm going to call it, anything. Anything works. Okay, there we go.
Chalk Talk. Yeah.
Chalk Talk. Okay, that was fine. I'm going to hit OK, and let's see, I should probably have some settings or something to do. And it's loaded. Okay, so I'm all set, I think. I think I have a driver here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to, oh wow, this is all set and ready for me to start putting in some code. Okay, cool. So back to you.
So when I take a look at mine, so Craig's is all customized. He has new GUIDs that were generated for him, and all of the function names are customized with the name of his driver, but mine isn't, and I'm going to go ahead and ignore that for now because I'm not going to try to customize it while you guys all wait with your questions. So what I'm going to do is the next thing you do is you build it. So I'm in the Razzable environment, so I will hit BCZ, and I can build my driver.
And I'm going to go to the build menu, and I'm going to type hit build solution. And it looks like mine's compiling just fine too. Oh, and by the way, I think I test signed it too. What? 2 failed. Of course. You got to be kidding. Oh, I tried to sign it. Did I? No.
No certificates were found.
Oh, well, we can fix that. I'm going to the driver property pages.
Yeah, this is a good way to showcase that.
Yeah, we can show that you can change these settings. Okay, so here we go. So we got this giant list of settings, and I'm going to go to driver settings, or driver signing settings. I don't know why we didn't have a certificate, but I'm going to create one. Am I doing anything wrong?
Nope.
Call me out. Whoops, I'm just going to build it then. Okay, so now I have a test sign certificate. I will build that, and now I've only got one thing. I need to sign the package project. Weirdly, this normally works, but Oh, yeah, test sign settings.
Yeah.
One more time. I'm going to test sign this, and I'm going to get a test certificate. Perfect. I'm going to save this so I don't mess it up again. I'll build it. There we go.
Okay.
Now I've built it. But not
Okay.
only did I build it, I've also built what's called a driver package project, which grabs the CAT file, the INF, the sys file, and has everything ready to go.
Just by hitting
Just
one
by
button.
hitting build
Okay, so
with
when
the right settings.
when I built, I just got the driver. So if I go here to the output directory, I see I have my sys file and my INF file, but it's not a package yet. So I know first I need to test sign my driver, so I happen to know the command to do that. So I can paste that in there and sign it. And I know I need to create a package too. So I know that I need to use inf to cat to do that. It looks like you already did that right there, Craig.
Yep, I certainly did. I've already run inf to cat and signability and
Okay, so I'm going to try to run, I tried to run inf to cat and there's a file missing from my package. It looks like your package already copied in the co-installer. I know I need to go pick up the
I think I can
co-installer.
find that. Yeah, we've got all the files packaged up in here. You have output to the main build window here that says we've already packaged it up for you with some detailed logging.
Okay, so I need to manually copy that, and then I need to try inf to cat again. Oh, and it broke again.
Now, interestingly, if I had you may say, if I want to take her project and put it into the new Windows 8 build environment, if I go to open, there's a convert sources and DIRs file option right here, and that will automatically create a VCX proj file that we can load up and actually bring over to the new environment already, which is kind of a cool little thing we could talk about too.
Okay. All right, so now I need to figure out, I still need to sign mine. I'm still trying to figure out inf to cat. It didn't get all of my files copied over for me.
You don't know all the settings?
Yeah.
While she's doing that, I
Yeah.
want to show you how easy it is for me to take that driver package and actually deploy it on a second system. I've already gone into the UI here. Whoops, I'm not going to save these changes. I've already gone into the UI earlier, and I hit this little configuration UI. I've configured a second test system, and it's already been enabled to take test sign drivers, and it has the test cert and everything else over there. It's also got network debugging enabled. So let's see here. If I want to make that happen so that I can take my driver package and install it on another thing, on another machine, I can literally go over here to the deployment tab and hit enable deployment. Now there's a few options here. One, you got to choose the system you want to do. You may have several systems. Like it may be you want one system that's a x86 and one x64 system, so you can try it in both configurations. So you may have more than one machine. I'm going to go with the hardware ID, which literally just calls DevCon behind the scenes. Let's see if I go. What did I call this project? Anything?
Yeah.
So it'll be root/anything. We have some other options. If you have we can't handle every single installation type right now. So if you have something that requires the installation of a lot of files and some weird steps afterwards that you want to do, we have this custom command line option where you could go and actually specify a script for driver installation. So we can handle anything. You just tell us what to run when we do deployment, and we'll copy it over and run it locally. And then we have another option that will actually install and verify based on what you have in your INF. That's what we've got in there today. So if I save this off and I check something, whoops. You go
Okay,
ahead.
so I'm
please.
still trying to figure mine out over here. I know that, so I finally have a package here. I have a sys file, a catalog, and an INF, but it didn't put it in a separate directory for me. But I know, I guess I could just install it from here locally and take my chances because I can't manually configure a computer. I think I need DevCon. Oh, it's not there. I'm going to have to go look for it.
Okay, well, I'm going to try this. we're going to see what happens. I have it set up to deploy the solution now, so I'm going to say, oh, what the heck, let's actually hit the start debugging. And I'm going to choose kernel debugger. And okay, finish. Did I not set it up? Oh, here we go.
Yep.
So I've actually deployed the driver, and it's waiting to connect to the target. It didn't sync. I'm good? So if I do anything to crash this machine, I will actually be in there. Can I try breaking in? Should I?
Yeah.
I'm not getting in. What's that? Little pause button up here? Where is it? Break all? Would that work?
It's waiting to connect.
Yeah, it's not syncing right this minute. Well, normally that would break in by now. This exact setup actually worked at 2 o'clock today when we in an earlier one. No, I actually have hit the pause button. In this particular case, I have noticed, especially in the lab systems we've got with the hardware we've got, it's sometimes taken a power cycle through or a reboot in order for it to actually sync back up. But I have seen this working earlier today.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to abandon what I was doing on Windows 7 because I don't have a test machine that I can configure to deploy to.
And then from there on, we actually have, if you went to the talk at 2 o'clock earlier on today, we have a library of tests that we make available in here. For those of you who have never had to install the Windows Logo Kit or the Windows Certification Kit, you won't need to necessarily in order to get some of the logo tests that exist today. We also have a series of device fundamental tests, quite the library actually. I don't think you can read all of the ones that are on there, but we've got those available. Those can be scheduled against the target system in order to try to crash it. And then one of the other cool things I wanted to show here, because I don't know if we actually showed how you do it. If you go to the driver properties, or the properties for your actual settings, you can go to driver verifier and enable driver verifier automatically. We'll go over to the second machine and actually set it up for you with whatever settings that you choose. And if you decide to change those settings, we'll actually go and change them on the fly, which is kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the 10-minute intro to some of the work that we've done to make driver developers move over, actually facilitate driver developers and bring them to the modern
command line.
Well, from the command line over to the Windows Visual Studio environment for driver development. Now, where's my slides? There we go. So if I go on here, this is kind of a summary. Whoops. There we go. So this is a summary of a lot of the different things we can do. We've got the WDK is now integrated fully into Visual Studio. You can do everything from there. That's the idea. We've got driver templates in addition to samples. The samples, I believe, are moving online for download. The base drivers that you would use that are going to be thoroughly vetted will be built using templates. We've got a conversion tool for those of you who still have DIRs and sources files or a large quantity of code that still needs to be ported over or you'd like to try in the new environment. F5 is supposed to do everything now. You can build it, you can sign it, you can package it, you can deploy it, you can run a custom script if you have a more lengthy deployment, and ultimately you'll be able to have the debugger running. In this particular case, it was network debugging. It didn't sync up, but it normally will. And serial debugging is reliable still, but I don't think you want to do that. Code analysis and static driver verifier. At 2 o'clock, we did a talk today about that. We can show it, we can demo it, we can still do things with that if you want to see it done. We have a full library of tests, including the device fundamentals. We have some wireless tests, if I remember right, also integrated in there. And then we also have the ability to create your own tests using templates within the WDK today. I didn't demonstrate the command line versions of all of this, but you can do any of the stuff that we just did using the command line. For
MS Build.
For MS Build.
Yeah.
You can also do the driver testing stuff from a command line tool that we provide in there as well. And with that, I'm going to open it up and see if anybody has any questions, because we expect a few. Go ahead.
Does the driver test take the place of the driver test manager and getting a cat file?
Does the driver test? Does the driver test manager? Sorry. Does the driver test tool within here replace the DTM and getting a CAT file and certification. No, it does. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually replace the certification process, but it will run the exact same test in the exact same way. In the past, if you use the Windows 7 driver kit, it's more of a bundle of tools. So, for example, a lot of the tests are based on something called the Windows Driver Test Framework, WDTF. That is not the easiest thing to install nor run. And if you've ever tried to take a test from the certification kit or logo kit in the past and bring it over so in the developer environment you can rerun that test if you hear there's a failure later, that's almost impossible. I know the guy who knows how to do it down the hall, and it's hard. Now we've got it integrated in, so it's much easier. We're trying to bring as many tests as we can from the certification kit over, so you don't have to install a server and another system and go through that. So.
You can run them before you actually attempt to submit.
You keep saying package. Is it, when you say the package, is it an actual MSI type install? So I can actually grab that package and walk it over to another piece?
Wait, which, I'm sorry.
You're saying when you compile.
Right.
And it creates
Oh.
the package, the CAT file, the symbol file, the driver, the INF.
Yeah.
Is it just a series of files in a directory, or
Yeah.
is it actually an MSI?
It actually creates a series of files in a directory, and then we
Yeah.
copy them over. They actually
Right.
end up in a folder in the system root, driver test folder, drivers, and you can actually go there and see exactly what's been brought over, and it's pretty straightforward. There's usually, from a base template, you get a CAT, an INF, a sys file, and a test certificate.
And when you look at the output for your solution, under the output directory, we create a subdirectory called package that just has what you need to deploy the whole driver together.
I saw Daron snuck in the room too, so
Yeah.
if you have some other questions, we can throw them at him too.
We had a question over here, actually.
Sorry.
So this is a great change we've been waiting for years, so thank you for that.
Good.
Just want to know what kind of exposure this is getting internally. Is anyone using ZenMicrosoft? Serious developers?
The question is what kind of exposure is this getting internally? I can say that our particular floor and the connectivity folks have started taking a look at this pretty seriously. It hasn't gotten full exposure yet because this is fairly recent that the two machine scenarios started coming together. So we have been teaching people how to use this on our floor fairly extensively for the last month.
Because I've started using Visual Studio 10 with the WDK and Windows 4 ARM. So with Visual Studio 11, it's all included. I don't need to install separate packages. Or
Oh, well, you'll
Okay,
still
so
need
how
to.
does this install is the question.
How does this
Make
install?
sure we repeat.
You'll install Visual Studio Ultimate, which will include your SDK environment, and you will still need to install the WDK on top of that to get the full development environment.
Okay, and we have stable because I've been doing frequent updates in the last few months. We have stable release.
Is there? Yeah.
Is
go
this
ahead.
live? If you're using EAP drops, we'll talk about that later, because that's a completely different story than what everybody got here. Okay.
But the build that came with the USB stick that everybody got with their machines, that one has the Visual Studio Ultimate and WDK, which I recommend highly you install the Visual Studio build first before you put the WDK on top, otherwise it doesn't really work. So
Right.
it's like a layer cake. Start with Visual Studio and put the WDK on top, and then you'll get the new driver menu and everything else in there. Go ahead. Nope. You do
What was
not. The question is, do you need to uninstall the Express version of VS? And the answer is no. They work side by side. You can.
You mentioned it runs with the Ultimate SKU of Visual Studio. Does it actually work with any cheaper ones?
Does it work with any cheaper versions of VS?
Yeah,
We've got
Daron.
a continuous integration system which we've hand-rolled with a bunch of build servers. Currently, we don't need a Visual Studio license for those machines. We're just using plain WDK tools and compilers. So if we're going to have to add Visual Studio to each of those, which version can we put on?
So the question is, what I hear is cost, is really what you're asking in the end. The plan is that there will be different SKUs of Visual Studio when we release Windows 8, whatever we call it. And Ultimate is not going to be the one that we require. If Pro exists for this version, next version, then that's what it's going to be for as our minimum baseline. It's not going to be Visual Studio Express. Visual Studio Express is only for Metro-style apps. And in terms of a build server and infrastructure for the build server, we're going to be coming out with a white paper that talks about how to take a Visual Studio install and put it under source control and only have MS Build and the compilers and the tools without the UI in there. And the EULA and the licensing for what you buy will allow you to do that. And that's a work in progress. Does that address some of your needs?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yes?
Is there assistance in setting up the target machine?
Is there assistance in setting up the target machine? As part of provisioning a target machine?
Enabling kernel debug and point
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The number of things we do through the provisioning process is pretty large at this point. We do, it's very, I think it's analogous to how we do the logo program, or the certification kit. When we set up a second system, we enable auto logon, we set up a test account on there. We install about 7 different MSIs, including the debugger packages. We put a test harness on there that's pretty lightweight. A couple other things. We enable debugging, test signing, a couple other things like that.
To use this, you need to install something on the target. That'll take
Right.
care of all that.
Actually, what you need to do on the target is you just need to enable file and print sharing on the network. And then from Visual Studio, you pick the name of the system you want. As long as you're administrator on both machines, you can provision it from your developer machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Oops.
Let's
So-
yes, go ahead.
Do you have any support for logging in this Visual Studio? I mean WPP or ETW, that kind of stuff. Like you start the test, you're labeling WPP, you are ending your test, and you have like your WPP output for
Right.
that kind of scenarios.
Right. The question was, have we integrated WPP? And the answer is we have done a prototype of that, but we have not integrated that into the product yet. So you still have the other tools available that you used to use to collect the WPP traces and analyze them.
Do you plan to integrate all this?
No.
We have questions in the back. How about in the middle first? I'm
From a high level, can you just explain what the steps would be required to take an existing Windows 7 driver and to convert it to work in Windows 8 for both Intel and ARM? Just kind of broad steps.
Oh, okay. All right. So we have, yeah, we'll leave the ARM question to the side, but we can show them the conversion tool. We have provided a tool along with the WDK that will take existing sources and make file.inc and create a VCX proj for you. And you can access that from within Visual Studio, and Craig is pulling that up now.
I was going to, yeah.
So you can point it to a directory that has an existing solution and it will convert it for you. And that's how you move forward to the new kit and be able to build in the new kit. The WDK does ship with platform targets of x86 and x64, but not ARM.
So at this point, I would just point this at a sources and DIRS file. This thing would convert it over and give you the VCX project file that you would do. I mean, there's also a command line equivalent of it. It's called nmake to msbuild.exe, and it's got a solid set of options for converting over your existing sources and DIRS.
Yeah.
Do
Question
you go all
in
the
the
way back to 2003 drivers, or what's the minimum that you support?
Oh, the minimum support? I think we go back to, what do we go
Vista.
back to? Vista.
Yeah.
So if I were to stop debugging, I could see that.
The configurations.
Yeah.
So you can't convert the sources from a 2003, or it doesn't matter?
2003 server.
Can you
Yeah.
convert the sources from
You
2003?
can convert anything from anywhere,
Right.
but the OS, when you build, it'll build for Vista. So-
Right. The minimum version that we build for within the Visual Studio environment is Vista.
Yeah.
Question way in the back. I know you're there.
So do you guys support testing for network devices? Basically, you deploy, you need 2 machines.
2 machine tests are not supported in our test harness today, unfortunately. our networking folks are asking us the exact same thing right now. But currently it's single machine tests only. I know the wireless folks are trying to put some things in our kit. So we may have support for that, but we may not have anything that requires 2 physical machines. We haven't been able to get our harness to work with that.
What chipsets do you support for network debugging?
What chipsets do we support for network debugging? I wish I was at George's talk a
Yeah.
second ago.
We'll have to defer to George on that question. There is a talk online that talks about debugger transport support. And it was a pre-recorded session, so it should already be there.
Just grab me afterwards, and I'll make sure that we get your
Yeah.
question answered by the right folks on that one. Oh, okay.
The network, yeah. Go ahead with your
So
question.
in the previous WK, you install it, and when you were going to do a build, you would select an environment for x86, x64,
Mhm.
and I'd set up all the environment variables and all this whole stuff in the command line. So how does that equate to what you've got in Visual Studio?
Okay, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's in the past. I'll definitely repeat this one. In the past, in the Windows 7 driver kit, you may remember there are something like 16 shortcuts for every build environment that you could possibly want to target, whether it was free, checked, or which target operating system. How does it work in this command line environment? And the answer is MS Build allows us to what's the option? Basically, it's a single command line. Could build for any target. You basically specify with a /p target option, what is it? Target configuration, and then you give the name of the configuration you want to give. So in one case, it might be Windows 7 debug, and then that'll actually build for that particular target. And you can do that multiple times. You don't necessarily need to have a different shortcut for each one. You can target whatever you'd like to from the command line that way.
Just by selecting that configuration information,
Yeah.
it does that exact same.
In
Yeah,
the
it would do the
UI.
exact same thing that the UI would do from the command line.
Well,
It used to have its own compiler.
it doesn't have, it has the Dev 11 compiler. So in the IDE, you just select the configuration and the platform you want to target and then build. But you can still use a script from the command line to call MS Build and specify, which configurations you want to build, like for a nightly build script, for instance.
So if I go run a developer command prompt, which I don't know where it's going to show up.
Do you want me to type in the?
You want to type in the path?
Yeah.
Where do I got to go?
Users.
What's that?
Yeah.
Program
We'll find that.
files.
Are you going to build
Oh, I was going to build something.
You need to go to users.
Oh. Users?
Mm-hmm. You can take the next question. I can
What?
find it.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take another question while she does it. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
So with the Windows 7 PDK and Windows 8 and PDK, is the PDB produced by both version? Is the format the same? I mean, all the tools that work for the previous WDK PDBs are working for the new one? Or slightly changing the format?
You want to cover that one?
The PDB format changes every time we rev the compiler. So if you use the DIA SDK, so the DIA SDK to access the PDB and symbol information, it will all work. So it will be accessed properly through WinDBG, through VS, whatever else. If you're cracking open the PDB and reading byte by byte, there's no guarantee it's going to be exactly the same.
And tools like Trace, DMAP, or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, they understand how to pull out information.
But you need to take them from the new DDK, right?
Typically, yes, but the tools will be able to consume the old PDBs as well because they use the right abstraction. So the PDBs are portable, if that's really what you're asking between tools. But the format of the PDB itself is actually pretty different comparatively.
Oh, am I in the way? I'm in the way.
Okay.
Okay.
So to get back to yours, this is the command line you would use to target different configurations. And it didn't work. What was the error?
Oh, it's the NeCPU part.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I know there were some questions on this side of the room, and we've probably been missing you. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Can the new WDK target earlier versions of KMDF?
Can the new WDK target earlier versions of WDF?
KMDF driver.
I believe it can.
Yes, it can.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's actually in the properties.
Oh, yeah. In fact, it's in the driver properties. When you create a project, you can actually specify which version of KMDF you want to do. It is similar to Driver Verifier or any of the other settings we've got. We've got quite a variety of options in the property pages for those projects for you there. Any other? Go ahead.
Have any improvements been made in Driver Verifier?
Yes. The question is, have any improvements been made in Driver Verifier? And the answer is yes. Jakob, you want to say a few things?
Yeah, I can say a few things. So
You talk
what
to
we
the-
have in,
talk to the mic.
Grab to the microphone over
Yeah.
there. It's all good.
So for Windows 8, Driver Verifier works exactly as it did for Windows 7 with more rules. And so that means any check you had in Windows 7 is going to work exactly the same way. The flags have exactly the same name. Can you bring up the flags properties? So the things we've
Yeah, you
done
will.
more is we've integrated with Visual Studio. So now you can actually, from the development machine, configure the target. So that's the first thing. Then we have one new thing we have here for Windows 8. It's called DDI compliance checking. And while the name doesn't say a lot, what it really is, it's a bunch of the rules that you guys might have known from Static Driver Verifier, where we have this rule language. So what we have is we have a bunch of rules. We publish those rules on MSDN. So you guys can see them. There you have links to the actual DDIs they talk about. We use those rules during static verification. And what we also have now is that we embed them into the operating system's version of Driver Verifier. It's pretty cool if we actually install like a little extra file with the operating system that have all these rules burned into them. And we can then service that as we find new rules we want to deploy. Yeah.
Thanks.
Who else has a few questions? Go ahead. We could.
You said you didn't have any WPP in there right now, and that's not in the templates, and you don't have any tools?
You can.
The question is there any WPP in the templates or tools or anywhere in the WDK right now?
That's like my
Yeah.
driver, my existing driver has WPP.
I can answer that.
Am I
I
going to be
know.
able to see the output?
So,
And can I make a new driver with the template
okay.
and have it output?
It sounds like your question has two parts. Can I view my WPP output from within Visual Studio? And that is the part that's not integrated. But can I build in WPP as part of my driver? And the answer is yes. There are properties associated with WPP as part of the driver support.
Can you create a standard
Yeah.
box template?
The template has WPP enabled. And it has some tracing already in there as a starting point. The
So we have
question
to-
was, yeah, do we have to use TraceView? Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Question on that, is that format open? Can we create our own parser for these, I believe they're ETL files, the output files?
Is the format for ETL open?
For the WPP tracing sort of output file,
I
or is that?
I don't know that it's open. I don't know that we've published it. You could take a look at the files and analyze them, but
TraceView kind of leaves a lot to wish for.
yes.
We'd like to make our own
Okay, so
tool. Is that possible?
the feedback is TraceView leaves a lot to be
Yeah.
desired.
There are APIs that will crack an ETL for you and give you, I think there's a callback mechanism that'll give you every record and tell you about it. That might not be very superbly documented, but it is there. Email Win8WDK and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's true. Sir, go ahead.
Are you making, with Win8, are you making more traces available to outside Microsoft? Like for networking, for SDIO bus, so you have tracing available, built in, but they haven't been available yet.
So the question is there more inbox driver tracing going to be available as public? Basically, the TMF files are going to be made public. That's on a team-by-team basis, what they decide to do. There are teams that are deciding to publish their trace information. There's one big advance that we've made for tracing in Windows 8 with this regard, in that you no longer have to ship a separate TMF file. We can embed the TMF information in the public PDB. So teams who decide that they'll let you get tracing information, all you do is hit the standard web symbol server, and TraceView has been updated to do that using the symbol path, and you'll automatically decode trace messages.
Is Endis making it available?
I think Endis is separating their messages out so that they have some public and some private, if I remember the last conversation with them properly. The question was, does Endis have tracing?
We're converting, in some cases, things over to standard principles.
In the back, somebody from the performance team was saying that a lot of the the WPP-based tracing is being turned into ETW-based tracing, which is manifested.
Oh, wow. Some. Some.
Is that a related question? Go ahead.
Oh.
You're in the front.
Is XPerf viewer being enhanced to actually use more than decoding? Is it more?
Is XPerf viewer being used to enhance more than built-in decoding? Did I repeat that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the guys from XPerf, but yes?
So there's actually some talks on Friday from Michael Millerud from the team that produces what is the next generation of XPerf View. It's called Windows Performance Analyzer. There's been a major revamp of how it presents data, both from a graphical nature but also in the summary tables. It's a lot more sophisticated and easier to use tool. So I would encourage you to look on your session agenda, and I don't know exactly when that talk is. Give me a chance and I'll look it up. But the tool has changed dramatically from what you're familiar with.
Thanks. You had a question? Yes?
I have a comment. Is Endis TraceView's formats are available on Windows 7?
Sorry, I didn't
I'm
catch
sorry, I
that.
missed that.
Endis TraceView's formats are available already on Windows 7.
So you're saying Endis trace formats are already available?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Endis trace formats are already available on Windows 7?
Okay.
Okay.
The WPA talk is on Friday from 2 to 3:30, or from 2 to 3. It's Hardware 59T from Michael Millerud.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This one
Asks? Oh, there we go.
You're saying that you can view the WDF 1.5. That means it can be run on XP.
Can we run WDF 1.9 on XP?
What,
You can view it in the binary, but
That we can build the binary?
do you want to field that?
So there's two variables here. One is the version that KMDF is and what that supported in the past, and then there's the versioning information of what the current WK stamps into your driver. So while 1.9 can run on XP, the Windows 8 WK will only stamp in your driver. The lowest version that it supports is Vista.
Yes?
Yeah, in yesterday's session, we talked about how they're trying to separate our drivers and maps, the building process, like three separate packages. So how does that impact the way that the drivers are packaged now? Because there was some indication about try to move away from co-installers as much as possible, try to make
Right.
it separate, right?
The question is, how does this relate to the message of trying to move applications out of drivers, like move away from co-installers? I still think it's the message now is you can still develop from within the same environment, and you can use all the same tools, and it's all very familiar, and it's a seamless workflow, and you can have the same build system that builds everything that you want to provide. You might be, when you create your driver package now, our recommendation is that it's just the driver, right? And that the application is separate. But you can now debug, from within Visual Studio, both when you're debugging the driver and later when you're debugging the application. So that part is seamless end to end. Does that answer your question?
Right up front.
So when you pick a template of an unclassified type
What happens when you pick what would you want to call it? An empty driver? Is that what you're?
Unclassified driver doesn't fit
An
into the
unclassified
bins
driver.
and stuff, yeah.
Well, we don't have bins anymore, I think. If you saw the certification talk, it's now function-centric instead of having to choose a bin. So, but,
So
You
the,
still have a
yeah,
class
yeah, no,
installer and a device
no, you're right. There's still, how do we answer that?
when you create like an empty project, with the templates we've provided is we allow you to create an empty project that really has nothing in it at all. And that's really, if you want to start from an empty project, it just sets up the tool set so that it will build correctly for a driver, but the rest is up to you. And then we provide some WDF basic drivers. And in those, yes, we do have to refer to the co-installer because of the way we service WDF. We need to be able to attach a co-installer to it. So if you go down level, it will install the latest version of WDF as part of installing that driver. But we don't, as part of the template, you don't get a new project for your own co-installer.
It's just a device co-installer, right? Because you guys already have the class co-installer.
The question is, there's no template for a device co-installer, but some of our templates do use a class co-installer.
That's true. Well, let's see. Any other feedback, questions? There's one way in the back.
I noticed that you have the file system mini filter driver. Do the automated tests include the file system mini filter driver tests?
No, do the tests include the file system mini filter driver test? No, not today. I can get their feedback and see if they'd be interested in getting those in there. I'm sure we would love to do that. I'm not sure what those tests are what's involved in those tests, but it's worth talking to them because integrating a test into this environment is not incredibly difficult. A test has there's basically some metadata that can make things appear pretty easily, and if not, we can kind of shim it in. So if the tests have value and you want the file system mini filter tests, we can do what we can about trying to get those in there.
I appreciate it because in order to get our drivers certified, they have to pass those tests.
Right, and that's basically the goal. I've got a roadshow going around internally as soon as we get back with a lot of the device teams to try to solicit more content into the test harness itself to make it more available for driver developers so that you don't have to necessarily run the entire certification kit. It'll just be available here. So we'll see what we can do about that.
Yes?
What's your email alias? Yeah.
It was WDK8,
I have that.
Win8 WDK. Yes.
Yeah, and the question is, for the logo kit, when will it be available?
When will the logo kit be available?
For this run a test, we could get the Win8 build and a lot of tests for people to pick up each of them.
Who can answer?
So we can all open?
Yeah, who can answer that question?
I can get you the answer from some of the certification folks. The certification folks are actually at our booth over in the Expo Center.
Yeah.
They're right next to us, so it's just a matter of asking them because I don't know their plans on availability right now.
And their talks, they have a couple of talks tomorrow talking specifically about the certification. Yes.
That does bring me to the question, the tests you can run from within Visual Studio, are they calling into the WFK that you have installed, or are they separate, distributed separately?
How are the tests that come with the WL that are normally in the certification program into into the WDK?
What tests are you running from Visual Studio, basically?
Right now, it's mostly the device fundamental ones, the ones that really span all drivers.
From where?
From, well, they're called device fundamentals. They're in every single certification program.
How did they get installed? Did they come with Visual Studio?
They're actually packaged up with an MSI, and then we install them when we provision a second machine. We'll put them on there for you.
So we don't
They're-
have to wait for
yeah.
the new logo kit to become available and things in there?
Correct. The common tests are installed as part of installing the WDK.
Right. That's cool.
So is this conference going to replace WinHack and driver?
Is this go ahead.
Is this conference going to replace WinHack and which ones?
They went back and forth, driver development conference.
DDC, PDC.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a great
Jerome, do
question.
you know?
It's beyond our pay scale.
Yeah.
I'll find out. I don't know.
What kind of integration you have with WinDBG? I mean, can you open crash dump files through this, or can you load extensions? Or what's
Right. So what is the integration with WinDBG? What they've done is they've taken the debugger engine and integrated it into the Visual Studio IDE. So yes, you can open up crash dumps. Everything you could do with WinDBG, you can do in the Visual Studio shell.
They can use KD files and for boot
Yes.
drivers.
Actually, we've got KD files built
Yeah.
into the driver project too.
You
If
can
don't-
deploy as a KD file.
You could do KD files deployment. It's
Yeah.
one of the options. I just didn't show it. The regular options to actually install the full driver, but we do have the KD files one too. I forgot about that. That's a good point.
So what's the recommended transport nav, network versus FireWire?
What's recommended? Oh, sorry. What's the recommended transport for debugging now? Network or FireWire? USB 3? No.
Whatever is convenient for you, I think, is the recommendation.
I've been finding-
There's no preferred
What's
transport.
What's more mature?
The ones that have been around longer, I think, are the ones that are more
I
mature.
mean, if you're asking what's the most mature, Serial
Yeah.
is the most mature. I mean, honestly.
I didn't say obsolete.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I have some machines in my office that still have Serial. But
So there is that talk online that talks about the different transports, and there it goes into more detail on what network cards are supported and what configurations you can use. If you want to debug down level, you can't use network debugging.
yeah,
So
network
that's a consideration.
debugging is Win8 to Win8 only at this point. So
So, most or all the local tests are EXE files. Do you expect some of them will just be as the matching style?
do we see some of the EXEs that work as logo tests being Metro styled? Is that the? No, I don't think that's going to change much there.
No.
Go ahead.
Yes.
How is the WinUSB identical application support on new
I'm sorry, I missed that.
WinUSB identical application?
Oh, how is WinUSB direct? Oh, calling the WinUSB API from an application? It's supported just the same way it was before. You can create an application that calls the WinUSB API.
Is there any template or sample that are integrated with debugging?
Okay, so is there any template or sample? We will have the same, we will have a wide variety of samples, and they're now available online. So some of them will be samples and some will be templates. There's no WinUSB template as of right now. Yeah.
And I just want to throw a plug in really quick. We're hanging out in the way back of the expo hall all day tomorrow. A lot of us will be smiling back there. If you want to play with any of these bits, we have some 2-machine setups. We have 5 of them. You can come back. We've got a lab going through some of these scenarios too. And you can give us feedback there and meet up with us. You're more than welcome. We're way in the back. There's a pretty good setup over there if you want to come by. Email us at win8wdk at any time. That'll reach the entire team, so we'll always have the right person answer. And do you have some other questions, or we can go any which way on this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I didn't see anything, aside KMDF, I didn't see anything on UMDF.
Oh.
There is a UMDF template driver in there. Today, we have an Endis template.
There's an Endis mini filter template and a file system mini filter template, UMDF, KMDF. There's a printer.
And a V4 printer driver as well, which actually has a pretty cool wizard leading into it. There's a lab on that too.
Yeah.
Does it include this 6.3 template? And this 6.3 template?
Endis 6.3?
No, it does. Do we include Endis 6.3 template? No, we do not.
There is an Endis 6.3 sample.
Yeah.
Karam just confirmed for me down here in the
Yeah.
front row. So, We have a sample. We don't have a template on that. We are trying to push people internally to produce more templates than samples.
Right.
Samples are supposed to be more illustrative in the future than they are supposed to be fully functioning starting points for drivers.
So usually with a template, it's just a starting point for you, to add your own code to it. The minimum amount of code possible to make it whatever it proclaims to be. You know, it has the right entry points to be an NDIS mini filter, but it doesn't do anything, for instance.
Right. Don't be shy. We're friendly folks. If you got anything to say, throw it out there.
More about the class drivers versus functions. You said they move the functions. So like I've got an unclassified driver, you know, that I'm getting certified so I can get a CAT file. Is that, am I still gonna, when I put it into DTM, am I still gonna run the unclassified driver test?
A question about the unclassified drivers. What happens when you take something that used to be unclassified and put it into the Windows certification kit?
So tomorrow they have the Windows certification kit talk that talks about how things are changing and how you can certify your drivers for Windows 8. So those are the experts on that, and it would be good to save those for those talks tomorrow.
I mean, don't quote me on it, but I believe they will I think it's just one program that you just start up. It'll detect functionality and give you the appropriate tests. That's the idea.
Yeah, it'll look at your device, see what it can do.
But I haven't personally played with their kit recently, so. Yeah, there's some of the INF. It'll examine an INF, and it will also poke your driver, possibly, and figure out what capabilities are there. But I can't tell you exactly what they do. That seemed to be the idea behind it. So, anybody else have something? Or you can grab us afterwards. That works too. I mean,
we will be at Ask the Experts table.
Any feedback? Are people excited about this to give it a try? Yeah. Well, good.
Good.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate it.